Hello dear friend, and welcome to this new video in which we are going to talk about relationships and specifically how Uranus changes or affects our relationships. And let's define actually how you can find whether Uranus has an impact on your personal life and your relationships. Of course, you have to explore your birth chart and find the position of Uranus. There are many options here, so you have to explore all of them. The first and most obvious case is if Uranus is in your 7th house. 7th house is the most important house when it comes to serious, committed relationships and marriage. And if you find Uranus in your 7th house, of course, that's an obvious evidence that Uranus will affect your relationships. But there are also many other options which may not seem so obvious, and first I want to introduce you to them, and then we'll talk about the real influence of this planet, specifically when it comes to our personal life. So, which are the other possibilities? Another possibility could be if Uranus has an aspect with your Venus. Venus is the planet of love for everyone, and we may have many aspects, many different types of aspects. There could be some positive aspects like trines and sextiles, or challenging ones like squares, oppositions. We also work with karmic and creative aspects, which also bring an impact. And you have to explore if your Venus has any aspect with Uranus. If you're not sure about this, you can use my free birth chart calculator. The link is below, and just check your chart. You have to find this connection between Venus and Uranus. Some other possibilities could be that Uranus may have an aspect with the cusp of your 7th house. I find that this is something that many people overlook or frankly just don't know about. So again, by using the calculator, you can find if there is an aspect between your Uranus and the cusp of 7th house. And this also shows an influence of Uranus over your relationships. The type of aspect, of course, is important, and it won't be the same if Uranus is in conjunction with the cusp or, let's say, has a semi-sextile. Those could be different situations, but both of them show that Uranus has certain influence on your relationships. Some other possibilities also, if, let's say, Uranus has an aspect with the ruler of your 7th house. For example, there could be a conjunction, there could be a trine or a square or any other aspect between Uranus and the ruler of your 7th house. Those are also cases when Uranus will have a major influence on your personal life. And of course, when it comes to synastry or compatibility between two different people, we may also have some Uranus triggers. Those are the cases when Uranus, whether this is your Uranus or the Uranus of another person, has important connections with the planets of the other person. For example, the Uranus of your boyfriend or your husband squares your Venus or squares your Sun, or obviously we have many options here. Those are also cases when Uranus is affecting your personal life and your relationship. And another moment I want to discuss with you is that even if in the birth chart Uranus has absolutely no connection with your 7th house, with your Venus, with the ruler of 7th house, it just doesn't seem to affect your relationship, at certain point in prediction it will. So this information may help you even in those cases. Of course, if in the natal chart Uranus is connected to your 7th house, it defines like a general tendency more or less through your life. But even if you don't have this natal connection, at least for a while, at certain point, Uranus will trigger your 7th house. And one more possibility I want to add here, how Uranus can affect your 7th house. Those are the cases when you have Aquarius on the cusp of 7th house. Basically, if your ascendant is in Leo, then Aquarius is on the cusp of 7th house. Those are also cases when Uranus is affecting your relationship. And now I hope we made it clear that there could be many different ways in which Uranus may trigger this area of your life. So what happens next? Let's say that you have this connection, you know about it, or you have just found out about it. What happens? The answer is that with the outer planets, things are never simple, and typically they can work on different levels. On the basic, kind of like most materialistic level, Uranus in relationships brings instability, especially if we talk about the challenging aspects. For example, Uranus squaring the cusp of 7th, or Uranus in opposition with your Venus. Those are the tough connections, and they bring certain level of instability. Things are changing, you don't have security in your personal life, or you just cannot seem to keep the relationship going. This is very common for the tough, unprocessed Uranus energies. But on the positive side, Uranus on a higher level can bring a very deep spiritual connection. That's like the best possible manifestation of the aspect. When you are friends with the other person, with your partner, and you share the same ideals, and you feel like your souls are connected. It's not so much about physical or, like simple relationship. It's a complicated relationship, but also a one which connects you spiritually with another person. And in those cases, Uranus may work very productively, very positively. But the most important question is, how are we using this energy? And also how well we know ourselves and how well we know our charts, of course. Because I have found some cases, which are not rare, by the way, when, for example, we have contradictions in the chart. One indication shows the need for stability, and we also have this Uranus impact that brings the need for some variety or for some excitement. And what happens? We have those two completely different polarities. What happens in most of the cases is that we identify ourselves with one of the possibilities and we suppress the other one. We are kind of like blinded for this need. And what happens in those cases is that the outer circumstances or other people bring this energy into our life. So what may happen is that consciously you say, I want to have a stable relationship, committed, traditional, safe, comfortable relationship. That's the most important for me. But you don't seem to be able to attract it, or what happens in most cases is that you attract other people in your life who play the role of Uranus, so to speak. So they don't seem to want to commit, they are either unreliable, or they change their minds, or they just don't want to go for it with you. And those are difficult cases, of course, especially if the culture doesn't support, for example, people to have more different type of relationships or not have a traditional relationship at all. Those are the most common cases when we suppress one of the needs and we over-identify with only the other one. So what's the solution? The solution is to get to know yourself very well. And this, my friend, is a process. This is not something that happens overnight. Maybe sometimes we may have breakthroughs and insights and sudden moments of inspiration and clarity, but for most of us, this is a long process. It's not just one layer. We are peeling different layers. And astrology is a great help in this because it may show us those blind spots that we don't necessarily see. And if you find that Uranus is affecting your personal life, your relationship, your marriage, you must respect that energy. You cannot neglect it, overlook it, try to pretend it's not there. It's absolutely impossible for this to work well. On the other side, what should we do in those cases? First of all, you have to accept the idea that your relationship will not be the most traditional conservative type of relationship. Actually, in most cases, if Uranus has a really strong impact on your personal life, I wouldn't recommend you to get officially married. Yes, that's right. I wouldn't recommend that because Uranus does not like official forms. Uranus doesn't like the box, doesn't like to be put in some kind of, restriction. It likes freedom and opportunities and variety. So, my friend, if you find this type of impact, I would recommend you at least to consider the possibility to have a different type of relationship. For some people, this may go even further, like having an open relationship or something that's not so well accepted by most people. But here's the thing, with Uranus, you have to define your own unique rules of the type of relationship that you really need. And those are the real answers. Those are the real solutions. And yeah, it's a process, especially if you need something different from what your partner needs, for example. You really need to work on that and find the balance. But don't be afraid of having something different, experimenting, trying new things, because you may find that actually you need something different from what you have imagined, because that's the truth. We are kind of like pre-programmed by society, by culture, by families, that we are supposed to want this type of relationship, that this is the only way things are supposed to work. And in reality, you may find that that's not what works for you. You need something different. Those are the most common cases with Uranus. We need to realize that we need something different, and we have to work for this to happen. Another possibility of how Uranus may also affect your life, both in the natal chart or as a trigger in prediction, are those moments when you are suddenly, blindly falling in love with someone. Those are the times when you fall in love from first sight and you just think that this is the most interesting, exciting, extraordinary person. That, my friends, happens. How long will it last? This is another question. For some people, this could be the fairy tale of their life. They are lucky. In other cases, over time, we realize that this has been an idealized vision that we have had about the person, and he cannot fulfill this requirement. So things may change, but that's another possibility of how Uranus may affect your personal life. Suddenly you fall in love with someone, or suddenly you realize you are no longer happy with this relationship. It's time for a change. You want freedom, or you want something new, or in some cases you just don't want to have a relationship, or you want to have an open relationship. That's very common, and all of that may happen when Uranus affects us. So again, my advice is first explore your chart. This will give you a very good direction of what you should look at, what you need to explore, which are the potential blind spots. And then ask yourself questions. Keep asking those questions until you finally come to the real truth for yourself. Again, astrology is very helpful, but this is also some psychology that we are using in this work. And this can help you to stop feeling as a victim or as someone who just needs to go through things. It's like life is happening to you and you don't have real choice there, because that's not true. You have choice, but you need to be very open-minded, very conscious about what you really want, what you really need, and what are your options. So I hope this video has inspired you to dig deeper and to answer, or at least start asking those questions. And with Uranus, the truth is that things can be positive, things can be very enlightening, those things can help us to grow spiritually, but the most important thing is how we use this energy. So let me know in the comments if you are one of those lucky people who have Uranus affecting their personal life and their relationship. I would love to hear your thoughts. If you want to learn astrology with us on a really high advanced level, check the link below and sign up for the waitlist for Mars Stars Astrology Academy. In the links also you will find a free webinar which will help you to get started with understanding the connection between astrology and psychology. So lots of other resources on my channel. I hope you are subscribed. If not, then you are welcome to do that. And I will see you next time. Take care.